and running on this Sunday afternoon. The weekend in Gulfstream and some racing, Ronnie, in South Florida. They just go together perfectly, as do Ronnie and Jason. Ron Nicoletti, Jason Blewett alongside. How about that news there? But we are good and good to start. Speaking of looking up into the sky, there are some ominous clouds. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we get through the day without any really heavy rain.
And what a day yesterday, boy. I didn't know if the Rainbow Six was going to get hit in that final race. Of course, it didn't. Carried over. It was just a wild day. Great racing. If you had the right ideas, you made a lot of money.
Well, I even think you might be able to just make it singular. If you had a right idea and it came in, you were probably pretty flush in the bankroll, because when it was all said and done, we ran 12 here yesterday. One winning favorite on the card. That favorite belonging to Todd Fletcher, and driven by Thunder, who wired the field with Gaffleone in race number 6 yesterday. But some prices continued to win one race after another, including Starship Zorro, who blew up the tote board at 70-1 in that Saturday first race. But the beauty of the game is, I think we're always looking ahead, and you've got, well, a blank slate today with 11 races on tap. Good and good, as we've had some rain in the area this morning here, and we do get underway a little after 1 o'clock. In fact, a little after 1:10 p.m. The opening high five on a Sunday afternoon begins with the first, and that goes as well for the opening leg of the 50-cent early pick 5. As we lose a race from 12 to 11, we don't have 3 pick 4s, but what we do have is well over $500,000 in that Sunday Rainbow Six carryover.
Boy, they sent it in yesterday for that. It's interesting to see where the pool ends today, but starting, as you mentioned, with over $22,000 in that pool.
$20,000 Rainbow Six payout yesterday. We had 3 singles alive in the last race, and today the last race, I should say, around 6:30, give or take. The 50-cent late pick 5 obviously concludes and caps with race number 11 on this Sunday, April 22nd. Same obviously goes for the Rainbow Six. Should be a lot of fun with those 3 singles, life-changing singles you might get in Saturday's nightcap. Obviously, the favorites did pretty well, or I should say the second choice over the post-time favorite, Repetitious, getting it done there. And how about a little Hofburg breezing a little north of us, maybe about 100 miles, give or take, north of us up at Payson Park.
Yeah, went to 5/8, I believe, today. We'll be showing that a little later on, I think, in the afternoon. And Hofburg, of course, from the Belmont Barn, heading to the Kentucky Derby.
And you like them, right?
Yeah. Right now, it's my pick, so write it down. I might change, but I don't think so.
We'll hold you to it. No change in 13 days out. It's Hofburg. Would love to see Belmont get his first Kentucky Derby win. I would also love to see me hit one of these pick 5s, all right? This has been, at least for me, an exercise in futility, it seems, over the last few weeks here. But we'll take our shot with the likely favorite in race number 1 today as the anchor in the foundation, the very speedy 5-horse Antique, who I would have to think will be lower than the current 2-1 by post. He has faced 2 absolute bears of late on the turf in Imprimis and American Guru. I'm hoping he landed in the right spot. Somebody's going to win, Ronnie, race number 2 today. There will be a shiny maiden diploma for one of those fillies in the second, and if Momenta Cat does take to the dirt, she's going to win. It's as simple as that. She'll be a big favorite. Like the field on the turf in race number 3 quite a bit. I thought that might just be the most challenging race of the first 5 in this sequence. I want some speed horses in race number 4, and I'm looking at a potentially fast pace in race number 5, and that's one of those races, Ronnie, where, well, some of the major players, in fact, I would argue 3 of the biggest players in the race, in Bossiata and even the Hawaiian horse there.
Laniakea.
Yeah, Laniakea. They're outside. I mean, they all have outside posts in that cash-out 5th race.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes in that. Of course, the penultimate race before the Rainbow Six, so you'll be able to judge how the track's been playing, and you'll be able to cash his ticket and make some money to bet the Rainbow Six.
Let's hope $27 for the 50-cent increments in Sunday's Pick 5. That does begin on the turf, and it does seem like the racing office had an eye on the extended forecast going into today's card. We run most of the turf races early through the middle, and then the last 4 races today will be run over the main track. So fingers crossed, good and good as we start, and let's get right down to it with the number 5, Teak. Ronnie, he brings big, big, big speed to the race.
You mentioned and making the third local start after finishing second to that repeat winner Imprimis at 2 starts back, and then third behind American Guru last time out. So this horse been knocking heads. It's Christophe Clement. You're getting Tyler Gaffley on the top, this gelded son of Broken Vow, and I think he's the one to beat in the opening event. And I can understand you singling. I think he's going to drop way down.
Yeah, he's going to be maybe in the even money territory, because as we go back to his last start here on March 15th, and this was just his third lifetime start, he's still very much lightly raced, this gelding by Broken Vow. He had the clear lead, had to deal with that inside post, blasted up and eat Joel Rosario. And at the time, I'm thinking, you know, he's 4-5, and he winds up, even though he runs okay in this race, he still manages to blow second by nose, and he obviously doesn't win. But the horse in the Stronach Silks, American Guru, the number 2, who cut him down and worked out a perfect trip, returned to win an allowance race on Wednesday afternoon up on the turf at Aqueduct. Got a 103 buyer.
Wow.
And he's unbeaten. I mean, he is a late starting son of Unbridled Song, who's a perfect 2 for 2. And Imprimis, who beat this horse 2-back, who beat the 5-teak 2-back, he looks like he could be one of the best turf sprinters in South Florida this summer.
I'm sold.
Yeah, good. We're sold on Teak. Let's get the money with Christophe Clement as that horse vans down today from Payson Park. Moving on to race number 2, we'll hit the main track listed as good. And we have this 3-and-up filly mare, $10,000 maiden claimer at a 1-turn mile. As you work your way through, and a nice cold trifecta of the old 183 for Ronnie and myself here in race number 2. I think it just simply boils down to, as Momentacat drops in for 10 G's, if she can transfer even 85% of her turf talent or turf form to the main track, she's probably going to win this race and win it comfortably.
Well, let's show you a stat with trainer Angel Rodriguez, what he's done over the last 5 years with horses going from turf to dirt. Mid-level claimers right here at Gulfstream Park. He's 4 for 14. It's limited, but it's good, 29%. 50% in the money with a positive return of investment. So there's reason to believe the drop, the surface switch, they've done it in the past, they've done it well. I think this is the one to beat, as you mentioned. If this one takes to the main track, it's over.
It's going to be all over. Now, as far as Momentacat, she's got to go from the rail with Nick Juarez, and if things get a little hungry towards the front of the pack and Momentacat just can't transfer some of that turf form over to the main, you and I both think the 8th Volta will break her main. She's not flashy. In fact, she's quite the contrary. Very one-page, very much kind of a plodding grinder. She can stay this distance, though. She might be able to just outlast this field.
Well, if you look at her record, she's 2 for 3 in the money at this distance on the main track. So there's one horse going from turf to dirt. She's already proven she can run at this distance, hasn't won, but can certainly be on the board.
Yeah, that might be good enough to get the job done, especially. It all hinges upon Momentacat as she dips in for 10 G's. And we'll flip the page on to Sunday's 3rd as our April 22nd program at Gulfstream Park continues. And if you remember the short comment from my early pick 5, I feel this is the deepest, most challenging race, just as far as handicapping and wagering in the first 5 races today, as this $12,500 claiming race has a number of horses. First and foremost, I think the biggest layer, at least to me, if I was to put them in order, would be the 4-horse rematch off a turf race here on March 24th, won by an even money favorite in Zafiro. And we'll backtrack to that race, and we'll keep our eyes on at least through the first turn with Abbott, who's the number 8 horse on this particular day for trainer Marcus Vitale. And I just wanted to show with the hit gate tight first, a short comment, just wanted to back that up with the visual as to what happened with Abbott, who wound up in a fairly uncomfortable spot, kind of jammed up in between horses. And you can see Nick Juarez, who was a hold that day, had a very hard hold of Abbott, trying to steady him off the horse immediately in front of him. In the end, he ran okay to check in 3rd behind Zafiro, who won that race at even money. And once again, it's a cold exacta for the boys here, 4-7
4-7, and you know, I'm going to date myself, but a big Abbott and Costello fan, and I always wanted to say, hey, Abbott, on air, so I got to do it.
You got to do it. Yeah. My dad's got all the Abbott and Costello DVDs. I would imagine you've got that collection, too.
Absolutely. We got to talk. We'll talk about Abbott and Costello.
You and Mr. B. Now, as far as Abbott goes, he, at least to Ronnie and I, he's the one we want out of the March 24th rematch because, again, you've got the quartet returning today in Sunday's third. If you're looking for another horse and you're not, for whatever reason, in love with that race, Street Code the 7 is the main danger. Quite simply, I mean, this horse is just really sharp right now.
He's stepping up to the next logical level after holding on to defeat those 16-2 lifetime claimers by a diminishing neck, but they were just cruising in the stretch, a good performance. And both, I haven't third done that Park is hoping to stretch his tactical speed. We'll see how the track or the turf course is playing this afternoon.
Absolutely. With that rain, and this has been a turf course that has not gotten much precipitation over the last few months. It's been a non-rainy season, and we're happy we made it through the real primetime championship season without a ton of rain. But again, we'll keep our eye on the course. A very good point by you. And I'll just wrap up by saying Street Code beat a good horse last time out in Panama Papers, who was a good second behind that aforementioned Driven by Thunder in yesterday's sixth race on the turf. Let's move on to race number 4 back on the main track. 3-up filly and mare, $16,000 maiden claimers ready to go in this race. And I'd be lying if I said I expected to see a shipper from Southern California. In the morning line favorite, I think, at 2-1, the number 2, Go Girl Gone, who's now with Jennifer Quinones and is one of a few speed horses in the race. And judging from who you have on top, much like me, Little Miss May, I just wanted speed in this race.
Yeah, I wanted speed. And I really didn't know what to do with the 2, Go Gone Girl, as you mentioned, Go Girl Gone, racing in California at the $16,000 level. Threw it on my ticket, and I was surprised today when I got in and looked and saw that was the 2-1 morning line favorite. So I used Little Miss May, the number 3, who's dropping to the 16 level, going to the main track, turning back to 3/4, set the pace. That was against 35 maidens going a mile in the 16th. You know me with turf to dirt and speed. I went there with Steve Cluceras, Edgar Zayas handling the surface switch this afternoon.
I think it's very encouraging with the fact that Little Miss May, who I obviously like as well, she's been more of a heavily raced turf horse throughout her 6-race career, but she's got that really good second, relatively speaking, really good second back on February 10th behind that repeat winner in Little Bay Corvette on the 10th of February. A reprise of that might be good enough to get the money here. I wanted speed all the way. I see you have Antonio Sano in the mix with the 6. All run, no play, who's a 6-year-old mare and a maiden.
Yeah, dropping a notch after following a second place finish against 12-5, 2 starts back with a Stalk and Fate performance. They stepped this horse up to the $25,000 level last time. I don't think that was the right spot. So I have them on the ticket, and I see you have in third the number 4, Love for Over You, who's plunging to the $10,000 level today. And I don't know what to do with the 2, Go Girl Gone.
I don't either, in the sense that I'm not 100% obviously sold on her. I mean, geez, I didn't pick her on top. I find, and not that I watch a ton of races from Southern Cali, I mean, this is our home circuit, our home track. I find when you're working, you're tuned into the place that you're working at a daily basis. My experience, just off the top of my head, with those lower-level maiden claiming races on the dirt in Southern Cali, they tend to come up pretty soft. So we'll see how this one does. Low-profile connections, but a likely speed. And again, I wanted pace horses in race number 4. 5th on the afternoon, let's put the finishing touches on what I hope is a winning early pick 5 here. I went 3 deep in this field of 8, 7.5 furlong, $12,500 filly and mare claimer, in which when we were talking about the early pick 5 from Bossiata, Lanaya Kia, the 9, and Hold That Kitten, the 10. You've got 3 of 4 major players who Ronnie and I have boxed up. 3 of them are going to need to work out some trips here from the outside.
Absolutely. And I settled on Bossiata in this race because dropping a notch, return for Leo. It's finished up fast, closing 4th against 16-3 lifetime claimers. There's a ton of speed in this race. And that's what put me on to Bossiata. I think this one sits that key stalking trip behind. I see speed up and down with Lanaya Kia and the 3 horse you have put on top. And I'm glad you put it on top because you got to say that name.
Well, that's special consideration.
Okay.
Special consideration.
Consideration. I got it now.
Mare by Artie Schiller, who I noted there's probably a crowded pace in this race.
Yes, exactly.
I think the good thing with her, and I'm hoping it's ultimately a feather in her cap, she's not a wind machine at 2 for 23 with 7 seconds. She has, thankfully, at least in my mind, she's run well rating and tracking in the past. I would love to see her maybe get covered up in that first flight beneath Miguel Vasquez from a good post number 2, tracking the likes of the 5 Schmiss, Commission's got speed. And again, Kelly Breen's filly with Nick Juarez really has that high cruising speed. So I'm not going to say that special consideration can't rate. In fact, I think quite the contrary. I'll pull her on top and put her on top, hoping she pulls a good trip beneath Miguel Vasquez. So we've only got one more turf race in the mix. We've got a couple of nice maiden races coming down the pike. We've also got a little breather here on the show. We'll be back after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
And Gulfstream is pulling away. Gulfstream blows them away with an eye-opening performance. Awesome again has won. Gulfstream kicking clear. Julie the
And we'll welcome you back. We'll take it from the mighty, the one and only Ghost Zapper, as Ronnie and Jason rejoin you from our third floor clubhouse studios on an overcast, what's been an overcast and somewhat drizzly Sunday morning here in the neighborhood of Hallandale Beach. Money, money, money. We got out of yesterday's card, Ronnie. We had 3 singles to take down the entire Rainbow Six jackpot. Lo and behold, the top 2 betting choices were first and second in yesterday's 12. So we begin 522 plus 4320 for you?
Nope, 5760. Stepped it up. Of course, we got a good carryover today, and you can see my selections there. No real singles this afternoon. And I really like motivating this race. I was almost thinking of doing that. But if you look at the morning line in a couple of these races, I've seen more even money shots on the line today. And I just didn't see them as like singles in the races. So as you go through, not in this particular race, but as you go through the card. So, I mean, that's where I went too deep in a couple of the races, as we'll talk. When we get to those races, I found it at 5760 might give me a shot. I went 4 deep in race time because that one confused me.
All right, sounds good. And I misspoke before the break. Two turf races remain. The opening leg of Sunday's Rainbow, and then the opening leg of the late pick 5. So races 6 and 7. The final 2 on the Gulfstream Park grass today, listed as good currently, with a little less than an hour out from race number 1. And you've got, well, some guesswork to be had in this upcoming 6th race, Ronnie, in the sense that you have a Bilmont firster in the 4, Nantucket Red, who is shipped down from Payson, and an Uncle Mo firster for trainer Jonathan Thomas in the 5, Motivate, who could be very live this afternoon. You also have Todd Pletcher in the mix, and I went with his Warfront filly, who in the end was bet first time out and pulled one of those impossible tracking really wide off a very slow pace. It's extremely tough to win with the kind of trip that she pulled first time out. I think second time out, she's going to get the money.
And that horse in there, Figuerella's Queen, came back to win a stake. And I want to show you a stat on trainer Todd Pletcher doing this today. 31 to 60-day layoff, maiden special weight, first time blinkers, which his horse is getting today on the turf. He's 3 for 13, 23%, 46% in the money, $1.14 RI. I just wanted to do that because of the blinkers on the turf. I just thought it might be a little interesting.
Not a great move, actually.
Yeah, no, I just thought it would
be a short price. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm glad you pulled that, Ronnie. I look at that stat, and I don't feel overwhelmingly confident that you're going to get some huge move up this afternoon with Todd's horse with the blinkers on at just 3 for 13, and obviously a very short ROI. Hopefully she improves, but I would have to think she'll need to be pretty good today, because I really get the sense that both the 4 Nantucket Red and your top pick, the number 5 Motivate, they just both strike me as fillies who are going to be pretty live first time out.
Yeah, I like Motivate today. I mean, it's a lot of guesswork. As we said, $260,000 daughter of Uncle Mo, debuting for Jonathan Thomas. Series of solid workouts showing up on the Bridlewood Farm training track. He's solid with first-time starters, Lasix, Tyler Gaffleone. And, of course, there's some guesswork involved in here, so I went with the Motivate on top. Your horse in second, Giannis Hachichi, and Nantucket Red. I didn't know what to do with the other Bilmont horse in here.
Yeah, Bilmont's got 2. He also sends out in this field of 8. He's got the outside and a Shamrock Babe, who does have some experience. And you get a sense, save perhaps the Pletcher filly, who faced the stakes winner first time out, as it turned out, and Figuerella's Queen. Shamrock Babe from the outside has run against some pretty good fields, including Amertoum, and you might say she comes out of the best, most consistent fields in terms of quality. It'll be a good test for her, though. Nice little race to start the Rainbow Six,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, I hope it stays on the turf. And it's looking, if it stays like this, good and good.
Yeah, you really got a sense of, in those live shots, how dark it is outside. But again, the rain is held off. Fingers crossed as we move on to our final turf race today on the Sunday card. Race number 7 is a 2-turn turf mile. Very competitive 3-year-old allowance optional claimer. This is a good, fun race to start the late pick 5. And in the end, I do have a single lurking down the Florida Turnpike, as it seems, in race number 10. I stood alone with the number 5 horse in Tomato Gator, who I think ultimately is the speed of the speed. And although he's going up in class, Jane Sabelli, boy, is she really on a run now. Her horses are running gigantic. And more on my single Tomato Gator in just a few moments. But some good supporting legs, including a very deep Ronnie looking down the line in race number 9, Florida bred. As I said, the Sunshine State Maidens. This looks like a pretty good field. And Terry Pompey and Joe Orsino both have a couple of firsters on the dirt that might be able to motor.
That's where I went 4 deep, because that one had me a little confused, is what I said. So that's why on my Rainbow Six went up to 57.60 to add another horse in that race.
Very competitive race. And we start things out. I went 2 deep in the 4 Josie's Riddle. There's a number of new claims in race number 7, not to get ahead of myself, but I'm using the Maker claim and the likely favorite in the 6, Musical Heart. And Musical Heart just did not have the best of setups, just never really had any good position, any comfortable position that you could win with successfully on the Gulfstream Park turf. And we'll show you this one's last start back on March 23rd. And you could see a horse who just, for whatever the reason, didn't really have any early position, early interest. And Luis Saez does the best he can do, keeping Musical Heart inside. And as you can see, not that he had to steady repeatedly or just check, but he was always just in a way bogged down, trying to just grind his way and force his way up the inside. I think we've come to expect and come to realize horses are very much, most of them anyway, are way more comfortable when they can put in those clear runs on the outside. And you might want to move up Musical Heart, who's been a good claim so far for trainer Aubrey Mirage.
And I just found a fun fact I wanted to show you. Aubrey Mirage with Tony Mirage in the saddle. These two together here are 4 for 17, 24%. Their return of investment is $5.74. That's in 2017 and 18. It seems every time that Tony rides for Aubrey, they run well. That's the series. So that was just a little stat I wanted to throw out there.
Well, we have the Ortiz boys down here for the winter time. We've got the Mirage boys in action now. Jason and John Service and a few other brothers as well. We'll see how they do at Musical Heart. Hands down the one to beat in race 7. He might, when it comes down to it, be a little more talented than the field, unless you get some improvement from some of the new acquisitions. And that's the other, sort of, I think, major main subplot to Sunday 7th, Ronnie. I mean, in a field of 9, you've got 4 horses going out for new barns. Geodude on the Rail is a trainer change to Kelly Breen, but the 3 other horses, including the 3 Wake Me Up at Noon for Norm Cassie and the 4 Josie's Riddle, are new claims. And that's where, well, my bread is buttered with Mike Maker off the claim on the turf, and I'm going to take the 4 Josie's Riddle. I've seen Mike move up horses on the turf off the claim that don't look as good as Josie's Riddle. Horse will be a decent price. Good little race to start the late pick 5.
Very good, and that's a tough one there, as they all are, but that one's especially so.
Yeah, I agree. Now, you might not have to go that deep in this Sunday 8th race, as we're on the main track for every leg in the late pick 4, and that sequence gets underway with this 3 and up 2 lifetime 6250 claimer, in which the drop downs are going to take the marquee sort of spot on center stage. You have Jersey Street off an 80-day layoff, claim for 12.5, in for the bottom 62.50 for Victor Barboza, and then the 9 I Idolize You, who just got the wrong trip, kind of rated into submission last time out with the half cent. He plummets to the bottom for Jason Service. If one of those 2 doesn't win, I'm out of the pick 5.
Well, Jersey Street, I just want to mention, that's one of the horses that's even money on the line here. But I think Idolize You. I just want to show you a stat on Jason Service. This is with a 50% drop in claiming price with taking the blinkers off on the dirt. He's 5 for 10. 50%.
Wow.
He's in the money 60% of the time, and he's got a $2.28 return of investment, $2.28. So Jersey Street, even money on the board, but I absolutely think you can't leave the 9 I Idolize You off the ticket.
No,
at all.
Cannot get beat by Jason Service drop down, especially when you start to really get down in the minutia.
Right.
And he's done so well locally at Gulfstream, especially making a blinker change. In this case, the blinkers are off, and I Idolize You, a dangerous type runner from an outside post with Nick Juarez in race number 8. And I just go back to that stat with Jason Service in general, a trainer who really just understands where to place his horses and brings them over here in races where they're set up to succeed and not the other way around. Let's move on to race number 9. We do have some time, which is a good thing because this looks like it could be a fairly strong and maybe loaded Florida-bred maiden special weight for the 3-and-up fillies and mares on the main track. And we'll see how the gals do here in Sunday's 9th, Ronnie. In terms of just comparing visually, they'll have to run a little bit to compare to the Colt version of this race on yesterday's card in the Ralph Nix train Cited. It'll look pretty good.
It looked pretty good in that race. I did go. I'm looking on the board right now that we both ended up with the number 1 in here, Shanghai Star, who was shifting her focus to the main track and adding blinkers. Had a bit of an eventful outing on the turf. She was fractious at the start. Then she failed to get on track in that race. She was beating double-digit lengths, but it's Todd Pletcher. Bats around 30% with everything, so I'm not going to bore you with all the statistics. But that was the one I went. But I went 4 deep in here. I added your 5.
Well, you got to have the firsters, I think, or at least they need to be discussed. And I'm very good at boring, and I'm going to bore everybody with the stat. Second time out maidens, turf to dirt. Todd is 16 for his last 42 for 38%. I'm wondering, because Shanghai Starlet didn't really get bet in that 8-horse field at just under 9-2, I'm wondering if that race was almost a means to an end, and this was the goal today as she makes her main track debut. But in talking about the firsters, what about the number 5, Miss Mashak? She's the Shackelford filly, or Miss Mashak. She's by a Preakness and Met Mile winner in Shackelford, and here's a little tale of the tape, or maybe in this case, tail of the hooves, as we have this filly, a homebred, in fact, for Northwind Thoroughbreds and Joe Orsino. The dam, and I only mention that she won as a 2-year-old because it's still fairly early in the year, and this is a 3-year-old February foal. So I think it's a positive that the dam won a few races as a juvenile and was very speedy and precocious and was able to carry that form in a solid career where she won 10 of 16. She's already dropped a couple of multiple winners on the dirt. This is her 3rd fall, and man, that work tab right here. She doesn't have to van in from GPW, Palm Meadows, or Payson. She's based over the track here at Gulfstream. She is just, wow, scorching.
You know, when I went back and looked at that horse, that particular horse, that's why I added it to the ticket for all the reasons that you were mentioning there. But a horse you didn't have on your ticket that I just want to mention a little, and that's the 6 Jamrock, who's a daughter of a productive sire, as we know, Cantheros, debuting for Jose Pinchin. Lasix added, but this is a half-sister to Mo Cash, working consistently for the debut, and I liked Mo Cash. She never really won that big race or anything like that, but she was great against Florida.
Oh, he's a terrific little sprinter. I mean, a horse that I think Ronnie Spatz may have paid about $3,000 or $5,000 bucks for. I mean, he's banked well over 100 G's.
Yeah.
No, that's a real positive. As Edgar Zayas rides another potentially live firster, and Terry Pompey has got one by the late Wildcat Air, who is the 5th foal from a dam, who's 14, did win once on the dirt, and you've got a couple of siblings who are multiple winners in dirt sprints. May have some firsters who can run a little bit. You've also got a Pletcher filly, I think, and you think is going to move way up and way forward second time out. As we move on to race number 10 and start to make our run down to the wire with only 2 races remaining, more Florida breds, always a good thing, and this non-winners of 1 on the dirt. This is a neat little race where I feel like you've got contenders from all over the place, horses coming out of very diverse spots. Now, in the case of Tomato Gator, he has been pretty sharp of late. He'll go off the claim for Jane Sabelli, who's 7 for her last 21 over the last 30 days at Gulfstream. I also want to give, and I know you agree, let's give a little love to, well, one of the horses who I think really exemplifies the backbone of South Florida racing on a daily basis, and that is the 5-year-old son of First Dude, the number 1 Starship Apollo, who's coming out of a win, buried a field of lesser claimers for 62.50 back on March 24th. And as we look at that race, I gotta just love the fact that this horse has run 27 times, Ronnie. He's won 8 of those races, and he's been claimed in his 27 27-race career, amazingly, he's been claimed 14 times.
9 of his last 12, which is totally amazing, and he just knows his way to the winner's circle. So an interesting horse here. Did not use him on the ticket, but I can understand anybody who did.
Yeah, this is more of a case, and I've got him obviously higher rated than you. Wanted to give him a little love, little respect, and we'll look at him come down to the finish line, winning his last race on March 24th. A rare claim at that for Ralph Nix, who's only started 21st off the claim horses over the last 5 years, winning with 3 of them. I like the speed of Tomato Gator. It's the combination of, I think he's the speed of the speed, and Jane Sibeli on a major run. You're right next door with the number 4, Star Wancho, who's going to be a good price.
He's going to be a good price. He's turning back to 3/4 of a mile following his $50,000 optional claiming victory at the distance. He had trouble in his next start against this caliber competition going 7. He was slammed at the start. He chased the pace, and he weakened to finish 6. I'm thinking with a good trip that this horse could be the sneaky in the race. And you get a price. It was my long shot.
Competitive race. Fun little race on the dirt. Again, it's such a diverse cast. You don't have the same maybe 3 or 4 horses who have just been running in the same condition. Got horses really coming in from many different spots. As we close things out, Sunday's nightcap, race 11 on this April 22nd is on the main at 1 mile. It's a 3-and-up 10K maiden claimer. And I say this with peace and love, but I think my comment from race 2 that somebody's going to win and somebody will no longer be a maiden. Boy, I didn't know what to do in here. I'm going to take the 6 bonus card, just hoping as he dips a little into 10K, this is just the right field.
Well, the horse that's even money on the morning line.
This horse is even money.
The 8 is what I'm saying in here. So that's one of the horses that I couldn't single. And the race that I was saying was even money. A rider of the blue dropping a rung on the maiden scale after rallying to finish 2nd in front of a pair of next out winners. 12-5 maidens at the distance. Jose Batista. I'm not sold on it, but that is what the morning line is on rider of the blue.
As he tries to rebound off a disappointing effort. I had liked him last time, and he was just buried on the track by King Wildcat at 8-5. We'll see how he does from the outside post, and we'll see how we do. Let's hit the rainbow in the pick 5s today,
We got
please.
it today, yeah, because we need money for a couple of days off.
We do. In fact, 3 consecutive dark days, but before those dark days, the man of the hour, Pete Aiello, is coming up. So get those pens and pencils ready. Sunday scratches and changes are next.